industries, so they control the narrative, and also CIA in the background. So it's important to understand that, because what's happening is, as we turn cows and pigs and chickens, these beautiful animals, into livestock, like property, they're turning beautiful human beings into livestock, into property that are just being used. So we don't want that to happen to us. So if we don't want that to happen to us, then we shouldn't do it to them. We shouldn't do it to cows and pigs and chickens, because whatever you sow, you're going to reap. So that's the whole underlying idea. That's what I talk about even more. It's in the World Peace Diet, but in the new book, Food for Freedom, I go into this whole thing in more depth. But that's the major point, is that animal agriculture causes the problems directly in the outer world, but it reduces our intelligence, our sense of justice, and the third thing is our honoring and connection with the sacred feminine dimension of consciousness inside of us, so that we are rendered incapable of actually transforming our society in a positive direction, because it just shuts down our intelligence and capacities and our motivation. So the sacred feminine is really important, because I talk about that in the World Peace Diet. Sophia was the ancient Greek goddess of wisdom, and refers to the inner wisdom within all of us that yearns to love and nurture and protect life, and sees how we're all interrelated, that basic wisdom. But with animal agriculture, you can't allow that. You cannot allow Sophia. You got to push that down in little kids early on, and that's what happens through the vaccination program and the food and the educational system, where they're taught to sit still and just obey authorities and please the authorities. That's the only way you're going to get ahead in the world, is if you please the authorities, and that's a way to create slaves. So we have to understand the sacred feminine dimension is really inherent within us, and wants to resurrect, right? Wants to rise up, and that's our natural tendency, is to love and to be aware and to be kind and loving and to cooperate and communicate and to celebrate our lives here and to savor the beauty of this beautiful earth and to commune with each other and with animals and to quiet our minds and feel our oneness with the infinite love that is the source of all life. That's our human beingness. And yet animal agriculture is the force. It is the satanic force that actually gets at the deepest root, which is our connection with nature and our society, which is food. Food is the root. So by introducing that, the killing and eating the horrible misery and suffering of animals, that just does it. That's the slave, when you put the handcuffs on people, you got them. So going vegan is walking out of the prison, and anyone can do it. And the funny thing is, I talk to people and say, well, you can go vegan. And they say, really? Well, should I do it fast or slow? You can just walk out. The door's open. You can just leave the prison if you want. You can kind of like work your way there, slowly, but it's like wide open. You can just go, nothing holding you there. And they go, well, I'll work my way there, I kind of like it in here, And people don't realize the terrible suffering that really not only they're causing, but that they're actually experiencing on a deeper level. And so I think for us who understand these things, our challenge is to just simply transform our consciousness so that we're not judging and blaming and criticizing these people, and realizing that they've been wounded from very early on, and to be loving and kind to them, and just do the best we can to shine love and be an example of another way of living, and hopefully invite them into out of jail. And I think the best way to do that is to really take responsibility for the quality of our food. Make sure it's not only vegan, but really organic is very important, because all these pesticides and herbicides that they're spraying on everything, especially glyphosate, it's really a broad spectrum antibiotic, it's carcinogenic, it's in almost everything. So organic is really important nowadays. And that it's whole foods, it's really important. Like we say, mostly uncooked is really good. And then eating it with mindfulness and sense of gratitude, and try to support local farmers, or grow it yourself is the best thing, or support local people. Try to decentralize things. There's a big push to centralize information, centralize food, centralize energy, centralize money. The more everything is centralized, the more few people can just control everybody. So the more we can decentralize everything, decentralize information. That's why we come here to Unity to learn another thing, right? To find a free place. Get more independent with food. Get more independent with energy. Get more independent with information. All these things. Local currencies. These are all really important things. We're really called to decentralize, get back to our connection with the earth, and trust each other, and create communities that are based on that. And that's what we have right now, I think. The unity, really, the unity movement, which we've been involved with, Madeline and I, for 35 years, or at least, was founded by people, Charles and Earl Fillmore, that were actually what we would call today vegans. It was before the word vegan was even invented, back in the 1920s. But they wouldn't eat meat or dairy or eggs, and they came out with a Bible, this Bible, back in 1918. And of course, everybody used leather for the Bible back then. But Charles said, no, we don't want to cause any suffering to our younger brothers, the cows. So we're going to use, they had this primitive kind of naga hide material that they used on this Bible. I mean, that was like really a very amazing thing. And so it's ironic, and I would say on one level somewhat tragic, that the unity movement has completely kind of lost, it's been kind of suppressed over the years. In the 1960s is when they sort of officially decided to no longer officially promote vegetarianism. And they wanted to be open and just let everybody eat whatever the heck they want. But if you saw Christspiracy, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's, the teaching can be very pure and beautiful and based on compassion for animals and all beings, but then to be organized, then you got to well, no, it's got to go along with the society. Everybody eats meat, so we got to just go along with that. And that's the difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is no compromise. You're living a life of awareness, honesty, integrity, and compassion. Religion has this divided loyalty. It wants people to be spiritual, to live that life, but then it wants to support the society that it's in because it's one of the institutions of society, so it has to support the society. So if the society is eating animal foods, it's not like, well, it's kind of going like this.
Yeah.
Well, try to kill them kindly, something. It's always stuff. So that's why it's important for us to hold the religions accountable. It's like, all right, look, and that's why I like Christspiracy. It's like, get back to the roots and see if there's purity there. Same thing with Buddhism. It was funny if you see the movie Christspiracy, how these Buddhists go, well, I think if the guy who kills the animal, I mean, he has the karma, but if you buy it, it's okay because you didn't kill it. That's the karma. It's a complicated mathematical equation, but that's how it works. It makes it look so stupid. Because it's really not Buddhism at all. I mean, it's just a total phony thing. I know. I mean, I was a Zen Buddhist monk in Korea, and we were in a monastery actually that had been vegan for 750 years, and it was vegan. There was no meat, no dairy, no eggs, no wool, no silk, no leather, no killing insects. It was really vegan for 750 years. And they were consequent because it was a training center and it was really, this is how it should be. And but it's always a tendency for it to get watered down. We were meditating from 3 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, so there was a lot of sensitivity to energy, and I think that was what kept it over 750 years, just a very intense meditation of all those centuries to keep it on course with being vegan. But as soon as we allow in the corruption, really, of society, and that's what's happened. I mean, the Western, especially the Western mentality came in a lot, like in Thailand, especially, and a lot of the Buddhist monks in Thailand, they expect to have some meat in their bowl, because the rich people have meat, so we're monks, we're important, we should have meat too. But that was a Western thing that came in. So there's always this tendency for the spiritual truth to be watered down and to be lost. That's why it's so important for us in our generation to awaken to these truths and live them and pass them on to the next generation. Because if we don't pass it on, it's going to get lost. It's really, we have an important mission, all of us, to really do this. So those of us who are a little bit older, good for you for passing it on to the younger people. And it's never too late to do it. And the other thing, I'm going to kind of wrap it up here because I don't want to go too long, but I just want to say that our life is precious because of its transitoriness. It is brief. It seems long, right? Oh my God, my life is going on and on here. But it's really not that long. I mean, I remember just the other day, I was about like 23, and I was sitting in this classroom. I was learning Chinese at Laney College in Oakland. And this woman was from China, and she said, if you ever go to China, you know, China is a country that honors the elders. So if you go to China and you act like you're an authority about something, and you're not at least 60 years old, they will laugh at you, because you don't know anything until you're at least 60. And I remember thinking, I was like 20, you know how it is when you're 24, something like that. I thought, 60? I will never be 60. I mean, that's so far away, like another planet, so far away. But I mean, I remember, you know, a few years ago, you know, there I was in China giving a lecture, and I could say to them, well, now you've got to believe me because I'm 60. You know, they knew I was saying that. But it goes by so fast. And you know, the oldest living woman, this woman from Japan, they asked her, what's it like being 119 years old? And she just said, it just went by so fast. And that's true. I mean, it goes by quick. So we are all definitely going to be at the point where we leave this body. I mean, that is non-negotiable. So when you leave the body, what's going to matter is how we lived our life. Did we come here and be part of the solution to the problems here and really question the things that are causing suffering and misery and be an example of another way of living, or did we just kind of go along and contribute and add to the problem? Because we are accountable, because this is not the only life, and we have a whole future that's far greater than what we can even imagine. So how we live our life makes a lot of difference here and beyond. And it's very important to remember that we are in a test here. It's basically a test. And it's a challenge. It's a school in a way. And it's difficult. You know, it's like going into a gym that has really heavy weights. You know, you go like, oh man, this is pretty intense. You know, it's an intense training. Very intense. But it's run by utter benevolence, underlying everything. So you're here to just be, like Gandhi said it, be the change. Be the change. Embody what this is all about. Veganism is just loving kindness, not just theoretically, but practically. And that's why I love unity. Unity is a church of practical Christianity. We're not just saying, well, I'm born again and I'm better than everybody else because I'm born again. It's like, how do we live our lives? You know, how do we live? That's the key. And that's why I love, you know, being able to like write this book and then see. I wrote this book and then I thought, well, there it is. But then gradually it just took off. It was this interesting thing. It was like Charlotte said, it was just like the first time that people had really brought spirituality into veganism, like in a comprehensive way. And it started getting translated by volunteers. All of a sudden, this woman from Israel said, well, we got it in Hebrew now. And then somebody from Slovenia, well, it's in Slovenian, and it's in Norwegian, it's in Croatian, it's in German and French and Italian and Chinese and Indonesian and Vietnamese and Hindi and Tamil, and I mean, it's like, we're up to about 20 languages now. And so then we started getting invited all over the world to speak in all these countries, and we saw the tremendous revolution, this positive revolution based on an ancient wisdom teaching. It was so great going to China multiple times, in Taiwan, Korea, and the Buddhists paid our transportation and paid everything because they said, well, you're spreading the Buddhist teaching of ahimsa, you know, of nonviolence. And I came back here and I thought, okay, now, Christian churches, are you going to pay our way? No. It's okay. No, but it's just interesting. You know, a lot of these spiritual traditions really are really working to spread compassion. But if they aren't, then we can hopefully enrich the ones that are here to remember and to spread it. Or we can create our own, right? Create our own traditions that really reflect this ancient wisdom of the interconnectedness of all life. And when we do that, create communities of healing. That's what we have right now. For a few hours here, we have this community of healing and veg fests and vegan restaurants and online cooking classes, and like Madeline has cooked vegan, you know, these are all communities. The only reason I ate meat all those years was the community I lived in. And when I left home and ended up at this place called The Farm in Tennessee, it was the largest hippie commune in the world. I was just 22, and my brother and I walked all the way there from Massachusetts. And we ended up at the farm, and it was all these people from California. We were trying to get to California, you know, we didn't get it, but we met all these, at the farm in Tennessee, there was this 900 people that were all vegetarians, and they were all from California. And that was it. Their example was, it was back in the early days, like we made our own vegan ice cream, and it was terrible, really. But it was, it was like, we thought it was pretty good, It was just like, we take soybeans and we grind them up and make soy milk, and then we, add a thickener and freeze it, and then there it is. Vegan ice cream. We didn't have the word vegan, we said vegetarian ice cream. No one knew the word vegan back in 1975, so all we could say was vegetarian. But it was, for me, it was just being in that community made it possible that I'd never eaten in my life since that day. That guy told me about how feeding all these, the food that we're growing to animals, while people starved. That's why they were doing it. And I met Madeline years later and found out the same month and year in Switzerland, she said, I'm not going to eat any more meat. So we had that connection. And then a few years later, I went to Korea, and I was living in a monastery that had been vegan for 750 years, and I realized it's really an ancient wisdom teaching. It's not this new hippie idea. And it's something that we can all embrace. We can all explore. We can explore it. And it's not just like a destination. Some people think, well, I'm vegan now. I'm done. I'm perfect. Everybody else is not me. And I think veganism is an aspiration. We're yearning to be completely loving to all living beings, to animals and to each other, and to all in all the challenges of daily life. And so it's something that we can always improve. And that's what I love really about we don't need to use the word vegan. We can say we're just living to liberate our consciousness and the consciousness of all beings as best we can. And our food will reflect that, and our relationships will. And that, I think, is really what we're talking about. It's something that is natural, and it's coming home to our true nature. We've all been hijacked and taken off on like this wrong path. And most people are still going down that path, and it's time for us to bring people back, to bring ourselves back, and then be an example of how we can return to our true nature. So thank you all for your very kind and loving attention, and I'd like to stop here and then turn it over maybe to Natalie for a minute.